Faisal, you often speak about the journey of the spirit as opposed to the spiritual journey. Can you please comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's so important that we receive the spiritual teaching from spiritual people. And maybe spiritual people, that's their job, to do spiritual, to preserve the spiritual work and the spiritual teaching. Not every person in existence came to do spiritual work or put on the hat of being spiritual teacher. Certain souls came to do that, to preserve that. They can be monks, they can be nuns, they can be whatever, teachers, beautiful, grateful, you know. But those people also advertise that the only thing real is that. It's their narcissistic supply. Those who are not really awakened, the fully awakened, they advertise the integration of the totality of life. Everything is precious. Every element is precious. It's all needed to create this symphony we call life. You know. So what we are spirits, are beings that are made of light, that can dwell in the material world, can exist in the essential domain. When we die, we still are there, can also reach enlightenment, be open in the absolute and awaken in the absolute. So we are those spirits, able to journey in all those domains, in this holistic kingdom. The material, essential, absolute, all constitute one kingdom. And we are spirits that are to inherit this kingdom. And there is no rest in our soul. There is no fulfillment till we become this again, to recognize this is our home. This kingdom is ours. The spiritual part of it and the worldly part of it. So we are not made to be spiritualists, even though we are made of spirit. But if we've forgotten the spiritual domain, then to awaken that, there are so much things we have forgotten. Our essences, our awakened state, you know. But some souls, they need the opposite. They don't incarnate. They are sitting in spiritual land, you know, and they are so afraid to descend and fulfill what their spirit wants to fulfill in life. They need to embody. They need to feel the courage to be here, to learn the skillful means, to get some education, some sustenance. They came to do certain jobs in life. So the spirit is not about just living in the spiritual domain. Otherwise, there'll be no life. We will all in the spiritual domain. But the material world, this world is also spiritual. This material world is made of pure spirit. And pure spirit is gelling into form and structure. So to divide it this way and that way puts the spirit, the human spirit, in a dilemma. That to live worldly life is not right. It has to be in spirit. And those who are in spirit feel unfulfilled, but they feel bad to come and incarnate and have a life. So for me, I had to break this idol, the spiritual idol. It's an idol that many people feel, unless they become spiritualists and do spiritual life, their life is meaningless, then they become transcendentalists and turn against their body, turn against this worldly existence, while we are meant to have all of it. We are the Alpha and the Omega. We are everything. The body, the ego, the soul, the essence, the absolute. Less than that, we are incomplete. And most importantly, we are a soul or a spirit or a higher self that is meant to inherit this whole kingdom and live in it and navigate and evolve forever and ever and ever. There'll never come a time in which this being of light will join the absolute and become absolutely being and Mahanirvana. Mahanirvana does not mean that. Mahanirvana means the entanglement around the soul is released. So it can be in any domain for as long as it wants, and can bring the blessings of all the domains into this existence. So there happened a lot of confusion that made the spiritual journey as the only thing there is for the spiritual seekers, and made them renounce so much of their life that they suffered from. They suffered of this loss. And for me, I don't want to just work on spiritualizing humanity, which is really needed that in our world. We tell humanity there is spirit, abundance, being we can tend to, but also humanized spirituality. Because spirituality in one level has become narcissistic, elitist, This is the real and this is not real, and my guru is better than your guru. It's not like that. It's about a magnificent being that's able to live in the flesh, in the spirit, in all those domains, and those beings are us. So the word shifted from emphasis about the absolute to emphasis about that in this existence there is a mandala, and in this mandala, the center of every mandala is the individuated being. So each one of us is a mandala, the center of it is you, and you're existing in this magnificent field, and each one of us is the center of this field. This field is amazing. It has 6,500 million centers. Every individual is a center of the universe. Amazing phenomenon. And that to me resolved the conflict, the splitting between the material and this, shall I be, and the spiritual, shall I be this, shall I be that, And part of me felt like, why am I divided? Like I am divided between mom and dad, between matter and spirit. And that took away this division, took away this simplicity, and allowed me to see that all of these elements need to be integrated. So we moved the work from being spiritual work to working in the evolution of the spirit that integrates the spiritual and the world, to create a harmony between the two. One foot in this world, one foot in that.
Okay, then a brief additional question. You use the word soul, and you use the word the real self. Can you say a bit more about what is the soul in your understanding?
Yeah, I mean, these words like the spiritual dictionary is full of so much confusion. I don't know how to sort it out. So I mentioned variety of names referring to one thing.
Yeah.
Because some people call it spirit, some people call it soul, some people call it individuated self, some people call it higher self. There are so many names that the individual seekers, they get confused. Is the soul the same as the spirit? And then you read definition, the soul different from the spirit. You name it. It's like a bazaar, yeah, so many. In our work, in our terminology, there is an individuated entity, a being that is made of precious elements of consciousness, of love, of beauty. It's made of the essential domains, and this being is so beautiful, so majestically enchanting. It looks like us. It's like a person, has a form, but the form is made of light, of intricate jewels of light. It's not like the body that seems to be naked. It has crowns of diamond and gold and jewels, crystals. It has necklaces. It has robes. It's described in the Bible. It's described in the Quran. It's described in so many lineages. It's described in the psychic domain. They all talk about a magical being, most beautiful being there is, made of the most precious element in the highest of form. And they all talk about that this being of the highest form has fallen, has gotten caught in the cobweb of mind and the cobweb of samsara. Why, we don't know. There is a purpose. Someday it will be revealed. But all we know is that this being exists. And for a seer, you will see a person that's like you, but made of the most precious element, glowing with light. Some people say it as an angel, some people say it as a fairy, some people say it as an actual person made of jewels, diamonds, gold, all of these things. It can be seen, it can be felt. That is to me that entity that comes and reincarnates, lives in one body after another. When we die, it does not die, the body dies, but it continues. It's made of aliveness itself. This entity, we call it a point of light, or individuated higher self, or the essential self. We call the ego is the image of that self, the illusion, or not the illusion, the image, the representation of that self. but that self exists, and it can be contacted, and can be guided in this lifetime or after we die to be liberated. This individual soul, this individual entity, is what so many systems sometimes call it spirit. You know, some people call it soul, some people call it identity. Mm-hmm. But no matter what the names are, there exists such a thing. You know. Then there is the basic nature, the luminosity, the awareness, the field itself, and some people call that the self. Mm-hmm. You know. And in our work, we don't call it the self, we call it selfhood. It's the basic nature of all selves, is made of that. But selfhood has no uniqueness. When you feel that, you feel everybody is the same. Even the trees, even the mountains, they are made of the same. It's a field of pure awareness, pure potentiality. Then in that field, there is no differences. We are all the same. I am okay, you're okay, everybody's okay, everything is the same. But that negates, if that's taken to be the only self, it negates the uniqueness of this individual self. So in nature, we are all the same, made of this field. But we remain a unique combination of those elements. And this uniqueness needs to be honored, needs to be preserved, needs to be guided, because that is who we are. That's who reincarnates. That's the one that can fall and rise, that can accumulate negative karma or positive karma. And it's really important to see that that person is susceptible to the law of existence. So we better give it guidance, instruction, in how to navigate without inflicting damage on itself or others. But if we think we are only a stream, or are only an illusion, then who is going to suffer karma? Who is going to reincarnate? So I think in that many have not been able to decipher this being, or they throw the baby with the bathwater. They realize that the ego is an image of it, so they throw the image, but they wouldn't allow the real self to also emerge in their field, and they became stuck in the absolute. They got caught in the prejudice of enlightenment. There's a prejudice there that makes them do not see reality. Those to me are beginner's enlightenment. Advanced enlightenment, the Dalai Lama says, everyone is an entity. This entity doesn't go, including Buddha, when he attained Mahanirvana, his entity is preserved. And that was a great relief, to acknowledge the presence of an entity that travels from time into time and space, lifetime after lifetime. And enhance that our work is so much to work with this entity, because it is you. It is the real you that is accountable for your evolution or devolution.